we are moving right along. Number 1, if you could come to the podium and just announce your name and where you're from, and then please read your question.
I'm Henry Devers. I'm from the Broadway area, and this is for CM. There's been some rumors in the Broadway area, and I'd like to see if you could clarify this for me. Have you ever, during your tenure as a deputy sheriff, assisted in any way, specifically Errol Crawford? I think we all know he was Weezer in that area. Move his vehicle from an accident and follow him home from the scene before the state police arrived.
Thank you, Henry.
You'll have 2 minutes.
None of that is correct. I can't go into detail because it was a personnel matter. I feel sure Kevin will bring it up also. I was a shift sergeant. The night in question, there was no accident. State police was never called. There was a violation of policy, and I reported it immediately to Sheriff Farley. That's all that I can say about it. Discipline was rendered the next morning, absolutely.
Brian, would you like to respond? You'll have 1 minute.
And that's, I guess, a good way to answer it is just in saying that since it's a personnel matter, we can't really comment on it and therefore not really answer the question. And once again, we go back to Sheriff Farley, and we're handcuffed without Sheriff Farley. But I think it goes back to what's right, what is right and what is wrong. It's a simple thing. Fortunately, the state police didn't get blamed in that one. Okay, maybe somehow it was their fault what happened. Okay, somehow or another we can twist that around, but let's not do
30
that.
seconds.
Let's look at it as a matter of there was a violation of policy and discipline was rendered. However, what was the future? What happened thereafter would be something that would be very telling. And many people in this room know that. I'm not going to get in here and get into finger pointing and all that sort of thing. But
10 seconds.
the policy was breached, or was it the law?
Bottom line, enforce the law. I don't care who it is. If someone's breaking the law, a class 1 misdemeanor, enforce the law. Are there any privileged characters in America anymore? I thought we got rid of the king a long time ago. Why some people get certain privileges, I just don't know. And again, go back to the system that we talked about. I was working at the sheriff's office at that time. It was well known what occurred. I was a young deputy at that time, and I'll tell you right now, at that time, I did not have the intestinal fortitude to do what was right, to step up and say, this is wrong, tell the media, tell somebody, I don't know. I mean,
30 seconds.
I did assist heavily in bringing out the incident with the, with the sheriff driving a cruiser drunk. And if I can give a shout out to a couple reporters and a couple internet bloggers here, if it weren't for them, we'd still all be in the dark. I think, though, if I had been on the scene, I was at home asleep. If I had been on the scene, bottom
10
line
seconds.
is you enforce the law. Okay, thank you.
And Brian, would you like to respond? Oh, okay. Moving on. Number 12.
My name is Frank Mundy, and I'm from Singers Glen. I'm a retired police officer, and it's just a brief statement of clarification so you understand my question. When Sheriff Farley ran originally, I, along with a number of other police officers, worked heartily and passionately with his election, just to the fact that we wanted to have the police officers. We've talked about the negative aspect of police officers being reprimanded for doing bad things. But the sheriff's office is one of the three that has no protection as far as their officers. They work at the will of the sheriff. My question was, if you are elected, would you, even though the antiquated code still says that you can, every employee at sheriff's office works at your will, would you incorporate or start a some type of a grievance procedure where an officer who has done nothing wrong has a hearing that he can stand up and say, I've done nothing
And
wrong,
your time is up.
please take and let me be able to witness my part. Would you do a grievance procedure?
Brian, it is your time to go first. And you will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And I think the gist of the question is how do you administer your personnel decisions in a way? I think the way that I would do it, I know the way that I would do it would be the same way in which I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your vote based on my qualifications. That's why I want you to vote for me on November the 8th. Likewise, all personnel decisions that I make as sheriff will be made on that same standard. Who is the most qualified person for this job? Regardless of whose buddy they might be or the antiquated way that things might have been done in the good old boys decades and decades ago. I think a professional department needs to be run based on qualifications. The best person for the job, not who you know, but what you know. That's the way I would run it. Now, as for, I would run all personnel matters that same way. The grievance procedure was mentioned, and I absolutely would be in favor of, if there's a problem of policy were to be broken and there's sanctions that are taken, we'll certainly we will go through a formal process and let an officer or deputy have an opportunity to grieve that, and appeal it, have a formal appeals board that they can hear the facts and assess it based on the facts, not opinions, not on friendships, but the facts. Qualifications, facts, professionalism. That's what I believe in. Thank you.
And CM, if you'd like to respond, you'll have 2 minutes.
What Frank is alluding to is we're all appointed under the sheriff as a constitutional officer. He can fire you, the sheriff can, for any reason whatsoever. I've seen it done over the years, not in my law enforcement career, but prior to that, once again, I was born and raised here. I've seen what prior sheriffs did for no reason at all. I would, as your next sheriff, would have a grievance procedure that would be set into place. That's the fair system that I know of. I've seen it used twice. County Fire and Rescue has the same grievance procedure, and our office currently has a grievance procedure. If a person has violated policy and they're getting ready to be terminated, demoted, or lose any of their pay structure, they can grieve this offense that they allegedly committed by picking a person to be on the panel of your choosing. The sheriff picks a person.
1 minute.
Those two people independently get together and pick a person together that the sheriff has no knowledge of until the panel convenes and meets to hear the evidence. You can't get any fairer than that. And the incident that I seen at the county that I was a part of, I was chosen by County Fire Rescue and by the county administrator to hit a fire issue. And it's the fair system that is out there that's available. Thank
30
you.
seconds. And you all have 2 minutes.
Yes, I would absolutely allow a grievance procedure. I have a lot of experience with it, actually. I actually try to utilize the grievance procedure with the sheriff. I fell into the sheriff's bad graces because when I deployed involuntarily to serve my country, I did not pick a war. I was told, you're not going. You stay here. I'm like, well, I'm going to go be sitting at Fort Leavenworth if I don't. So while I was gone, part of my time was, while I was gone, was covered through vacation time, which is a violation of federal law. So I objected to it. My sergeant is here in the room that I talked to with that person about. And at any rate, I objected to it. I said, no, you're not discriminating against a soldier. I forget that. So I signed my time sheet, signed in protest, and that put me on back races with him. So then a little bit later, something minor, most minor thing you'd ever imagine happened. And I said, this was years later. I said, no, that's baloney. I want to file a grievance. File a grievance with the sheriff's office, you get fired. All right. Make no mistake about it. It's already in writing. It's already in writing. You can pull it up on the in the sheriff's responsibility manual. So my only recourse, I actually went to the VEC with it and won, fully vindicated. And I've actually given, it was in the Daily News record that Sheriff Farley wouldn't speak of it. I've given written permission to anybody who wants to talk about it because, I mean, I've got it right on my side. because of the shenanigans that were pulled. So I have intimate knowledge
30
of
seconds.
how that feels. The biggest thing, though, is what I want to try to do as sheriff is try to get rid of this system. It just encourages this corruption and problems upon problems. We don't vote for a general in the Marine Corps. We don't have a police chief out there raising funds and doing this stuff, or having at-will employees at the FBI.
10 seconds.
There's no reason for this. If we could emulate a program like the sheriff, like the U.S. Marshal Service has, where the deputies or civil servants, they would actually have real protection. Thank you.
Number 31.
My name is Charles Keller, I'm in Burton, and this question is addressed to Major Hess. It is. Your political slogan is, "I'm a cop, not a politician." Why then has your campaign paid thousands of dollars to a professional political consultant firm during the course of this election campaign to tell you what to say, how to say it, and when to say it? And yet this evening, I heard you say you attended a Democratic fundraising event. Is that not politics?
NCMU will have 2 minutes.
You're exactly right. That has been my slogan from the beginning, and I'm a firm believer in it. Party politics doesn't belong in the 4 walls of the sheriff's office. I chose to run as an independent because I serve, once again, and I've said it, this will be the 15th time this evening, that I serve everyone in this room. As a public servant, all of us police officers serve everyone in this room. And I'm going to be held accountable as your next sheriff, but it'll be the citizens that hold me accountable. That's the way that I want it. That's the way that it needs to be done. Not by a political party. It doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican or those that fall in between. We serve the public. The public's our boss. That's who, like Kevin has been saying, that's who we're interviewing in front of. And that's ultimately the ones that's going to hold us accountable. Thank you.
Yes, you do.
As
You
far
have
as my
30 seconds.
consultant, that is proof that I'm not a politician. I had to reach out to somebody and guide me through this thing because I'm not a politician. I am a cop.
Interesting angle, I like that. I would say I did attend that Democratic function also, but we never had one conversation at all with anybody I spoke with that had anything to do with politics. It was all about law enforcement and things that need to be fixed, solutions. I have no political consultant. Jim, where you at? There you are. All right, there's my political consultant. I've applied for many jobs in the past and gotten most of them. I'm applying for a job, basically, is how I'm looking at this. Again,
30 seconds.
well, you're sabotaging yourself because you're not throwing your name out there. You didn't do a hot dog sale. You're not going to sell me hot dogs. Never worked a murder case involving a hot dog, where I needed to sell a hot dog to help solve it. I think at least, and I've called CML on the carpet of this numerous times, that you say
10
you say
seconds.
you're a cop, not a politician, but you're doing everything that a politician does. I think Brian's kind of leaned into it. He quoted, he said, "I am a politician. In
And
order
your
to do
time
this,
is
I
up.
have to become a politician." Thank you.
And that's a good place for me to pick up right there. And I think maybe we just have a disagreement on what a definition is. We might not agree what on the definition of is. But for me, you become a politician when you declare yourself as a candidate in a political election. You're a politician. If I go to someone and ask for their vote, I'm a politician. Okay? Now that is because that is the process that we have, and I will not apologize for participating in this process. I think it's the greatest country in the whole world that we live in. Everybody has an equal
30
say.
seconds.
Everyone has an equal say. One man, one vote. Rich or poor, anything. Now, I'm a politician in that regard, in that I'm a candidate. I'm being honest with you as to who I am when I ask for your vote. Okay? But I have not had to pay anybody a penny to tell me what to say, when to say it, how to say it,
10
and all of
seconds.
these other things. I can come up with my own policies and my own sayings on my own without having to have a consulting firm tell me to do that. Thank you.
Okay, and will number 19 please come up and state your name and where you're from and read your question.
Yes, my name is Lalonte Kirkland, and I'm from the Singers Glen area. My question is toward Mr. Hess. Recently, your campaign's Facebook page memorialized your campaign motorcycle fundraiser by posting pictures which clearly showed taxpayer-funded equipment was used in this event. To the people not supporting your campaign, is a misuse of taxpayer money something we can expect from you if you are elected? Thank you.
And Sam, you'll have 2 minutes.
No, you can't expect that as your next sheriff. That fundraiser, motorcycle ride, I'm an avid motorcyclist, and that fundraiser was set up by 2 supporters of mine. I take full responsibility that not only the county motorcycles were there, but the city motors were there also. Not requested by me. There's a motor officer here from the county, he can attest to it. I didn't ask them to come. I was there obviously when they showed up. They volunteered their time. It was departmental equipment from both of those departments, but they actually escort every single motorcycle ride that happens in our community because of a safety aspect for all the riders concerned. Hindsight's 20/20, should have sent them home, to be honest with you. When I got there that morning, I was excited that the amount of motorcycles that we had as far as the turnout was overwhelmed by
1
the
minute.
support. It was a misjudgment on my part. I take full responsibility that I should have sent them home. I didn't request it. That was from both of those departments, the city police department.
Brian, you'll have 1 minute to respond.
All right. And that issue, again, we're taking full responsibility for that. I guess the next question that comes into my mind is, was there any compensation whatsoever for that? And furthermore, with the pictures that I'm familiar with that had the number 1 raised in the background with the county motorcycles in the front, clearly is a misrepresentation. And I would argue that there's several others, just as a citizen, not as a candidate, but as a citizen that I have seen throughout this year when we're in a campaign tent at the county fair in uniform.
30 seconds.
CM Haskell Sheriff tent in uniform. What are we doing? Are we being paid? And if not, do we make it a practice of going places in uniform off duty? And does that not create a liability issue? If you slip and fall on the asphalt and you're in uniform, is it going to cost us taxpayers workers' comp payments? If you get in a crash, if one of those motorcycles had been in an
10
accident
seconds.
that day, is that burden going to be placed upon us for using this equipment and different things for the partisan political activity? It's not right.
Kevin, you'll have 1 minute.
Again, the employee discipline manual here says it's a category 2 offense where you should be suspended for unauthorized use or misuse of office property. I don't know how else you can define that. It's completely unacceptable. That's my money, that's your money, it should not have been used. You hit the nail on the head. If someone got in an accident, we'd have paid for it. You got to be able to make better decisions like that. I couldn't believe that those pictures were put on the internet. Who would do that and then write about it?
30
If
seconds.
that would have happened in my army, you'd be sitting in Leavenworth. It's almost a version of embezzlement, using taxpayer money to promote your private venture, essentially, or using it for unofficial business. Thank you.
Question number 26.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Vance from the city of Harrisonburg, and I think perhaps this will get at the other gentleman's question that wasn't answered for the last panel. This is directed to Mr. Hutchison. You announced your run for sheriff 3 months after accepting the police department chief job in Woodstock. Why should I or we think that you're going to serve all 4 years and not run for another political opportunity should it arise? Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And first off, that's factually incorrect. I announced my run a year later. I was hired as the chief of police in Woodstock in January of 2010. I made my formal announcement to run for sheriff of Rockingham County in the city of Harrisonburg on January the 25th of 2011. A little over a year later, And quite frankly, I've had 2 jobs in my whole life. I guess I stated before, high school, college, state police for 16 years, up into my current position, which has now been a little over a year and a half as chief of police for Woodstock. Now, with Woodstock, I'm not in a contract with them. I told them that I had no intentions of moving there, and they were fine with that. We had no verbal or written agreement for the term of my time there. So that was a simple matter of, in January of 2010, I was hired. As you recall, it was late, maybe say November of 2010, that the sheriff here in Rockingham announced that he was not going to seek re-election. So it was 11 months later that the announcement came out. I talked about it with some of the supporters of mine that are in this room, the law enforcement folks you see on that list that know me, that have worked with me, and I spent those 2 months talking to those people and saying, is this something I should pursue? What do we think about this? And what it came down to is, this is where we live, this is where we're raising our children. I believe in my qualifications to do it. I've never done anything other than law enforcement. I've never been a candidate for anything in my life. So there's no indications or there's no reason for any voter to believe otherwise.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Kevin, you will have 1 minute.
In the hypothetical world where Brian is elected sheriff, don't worry, he's not leaving. This job has a lot of power, way too much power, pays way too much. Who would leave this job? Nobody. That's why sheriffs become stagnant. That's why they're there forever. Once they get elected, they're not going anywhere. I recommend, it's part of one of the things I want to do. If you really are a true conservative, just try to put yourself out of a job if you're a government official. You truly are a conservative. I want to put myself out of a job. I don't think this is how we need to be getting our
30 seconds.
If I have 3 options on the table, and I'd like to talk to the General Assembly about the public safety subcommittees. One of which is term limits. I don't know why we have a term limit for the governor. One term, president 2 terms. Sheriff can run forever, and you see what happens. If we have more time, I can give you a whole
10
list
seconds.
of sheriffs throughout this state who've done nothing but bad stuff, and they're the only ones that got caught. Thank you.
You will have 1 minute.
I can promise you that I'm not going anywhere. I chose this community to perform law enforcement in 24 years ago. Unlike either one of my opponents, I've been in law enforcement longer than they've been in law enforcement. I've been there at the sheriff's office actually doing the job longer than they've been police officers.
Will number 30 please come forward and state where you're from, your name and your question?
My name's Joanna Abbott. I'm from Mount Crawford. This has definitely been covered before, but I don't think it can be said enough. And my question's directed to CM. How exactly is your experience with local law enforcement so important to your future as the sheriff?
And CM, you will have 2 minutes.
Once again, I think that it's been answered before, but we'll take another stab at it. Once again, the community, being born and raised here, I know the area, I know the people, and I think that that's extremely important for the area that you're going to serve law enforcement. Is that what your question is? Thank you.
Kevin, you will have 1 minute.
Been here for a long time also. I'm sorry, did you ask if it was important to have a familiarity with local law enforcement or just the local? Okay, gotcha. I've been here a long time also, by choice, not by birth. Couldn't choose that one. But I can tell you this, I hate to keep going back to, well, let me go this way. I've worked all 4 counties, all 4 corners of this county, and prior to becoming a cop, I had never been to some of the
30
hospitals.
seconds.
Did a great job there, solved a lot of cases. When you go into an area, you learn how you talk to the people as a patrol deputy. They're a good source of information. But yeah, I mean, just knowing I mean, I feel like pretty much everybody on the stage has been around.
10
I think
seconds.
they know the area, they know the folks.
Okay, and what I would say to that is that I am the only candidate on the stage who has not worked for the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. Okay, and I actually think that's an asset. I think that gives me the fresh perspective to look at the way they're operating, the way things are going on within that department, and see what can be improved upon, what can be done differently, what ways can we serve the public better. I have 17 years of law enforcement experience at all levels, patrol, investigations, and supervision, and I have done that all across the state of Virginia. In
30
Richmond,
seconds.
Wytheville, you name it, you name a place, and I've probably been sent on an assignment there. And I can bring those experiences in those three aspects, patrol, investigations, and supervision, to the benefit of our sheriff's office right here. And the folks that believe the same are listed right here, many of whom work for the sheriff's office and have
10
faith
seconds.
that my fresh perspective is exactly what we need at this time. Thank you.
Okay, and question number 8. Nobody have question number 8? Guess not. Well, we are actually right on time right now, running around 8:30. Right now, we're going to have all the candidates, they're going to ask a question to each candidate, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. The asking candidate will have 1 minute to ask the question. Brian, will you please start?
And this is a variation, I guess, of the question that I intended to ask, but I just cannot resist it because I don't know if I heard it right early today. And this question is directed to Major Hess. And my question would be this: regarding the incident that was recently reported on in the Daily News Record, when did you first find out that that took place? Was it in July of 2010 when it did take place? Or was it when the newspaper article hit the news? Or what? At what point did you find out
30
about
seconds.
what was going on and what was involved in that whole incident and what was done about it?
And CMU will have 2 minutes.
My first hearing of the incident was late July, first part of August. Definitely didn't come from Sheriff Farley. He didn't come in, he didn't call me in and say, hey, this is what happened to me back on, I think July 5th was the date in question. We never had that relationship. What he would have done while he was off. What he'd have done in a county vehicle. He never called me in and actually told me anything like that. So I didn't get it firsthand from him. I did hear rumors, probably just like a lot of you here in this room, heard the innuendos, what could have happened, what maybe didn't happen. I first read it just a month ago, an actual state police report that detailed exactly what happened on that day in question. That's my first accurate description as to what took place that day. So as far as having prior knowledge, I heard the rumors
1
just like
minute.
anybody else did.
5th of July, 2010, I was in Iraq. Convoy just got hit with an IED. A couple days later, I heard of this incident, 6,000 miles away. Just because you hear a rumor doesn't mean you bury your head in the sand. You have a responsibility to the citizens to step up and do the right thing. You are second in command, but you're first in line to stop wrongdoing. For those of you who clapped, and I can clap for me here in a minute, I gotta say the same thing. If Brian knew about it and was here, I wasn't stateside, so I apologize for that, but it was here
30 seconds.
as a member of the community, knowing, and I know he knows the troopers who didn't do their job because he supervised a couple of them. Why didn't you bring that out? I think every cop, and I think everybody owes all of our kids an apology. Stuff like that needs to be quelled.
10 seconds.
Put down quick, okay? We can't allow that stuff to happen. Thank you.
You have 1 minute to respond to their answers.
Okay, and first off, that's absolutely false. I never supervised a trooper that made that traffic stop, so maybe that got lost in translation going to wherever you were. Now, let me clarify, when CM says late July, first part of August, was this 2010 or 2011? When you first heard about that incident? 2010. Okay, so 2010, he heard about the incident. And let me quote you an article from the DNR, which was at his announcement, which was 2011, January the 12th,
30 seconds.
titled "A Cop Not a Politician." And I'll read the box here. CM has speaking of Sheriff Donald Farley. He's been my mentor. He has shown me the way things should be done. So you either embrace the activity or you point it out as being wrong and you do something about it. There's the only two things that go on. Thank you.
10 seconds. CM, you'll have a minute to ask your question, and you have a minute, so if you want to answer that too.
Well, my question's for Brian. The sheriff's office, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, has 160 employees strong, and the sheriff oversees each and every single one of those. Brian, what is the largest number of subordinates or employees you have ever been in charge of at any given time?
And Brian, you will have 2 minutes.
Okay. All right, the largest number, if we're just talking as if quantity is all that matters instead of quality, and I would not agree with that assertion in the first place. Quality is what we're after. Quantity is just a number. Now, as for quantity, I was selected by the Virginia State Police to be the lead instructor for the 108th basic session. What that meant, I was in charge of them before they arrived at the State Police Academy, getting everything arranged for them, the first day they hit there, all the way through graduation and getting the final paperwork processed on their way out. Talking about 8 months of being in charge. It started out about 80 trooper trainees. Trooper trainees, okay? We're talking about rookies, not even trained yet, were on my shoulders. I was selected for that, given that responsibility, and I saw it through all the way from before day one of the academy all the way until they left the academy. A very rewarding process, I might add. I'll see some of those troopers to this day out there. I saw where some of them have gotten awards and different things. It's a very rewarding honor being the lead supervisor accountable for those 80 folks, just myself, to get them through that training thing. But again, I don't necessarily agree that the quantity is the thing. I currently supervise, our department has 15 sworn officers. But the number is not the thing, it's what are you actually doing? Supervising them. The quality of supervision you provide is more important. And I think that leadership that I provide is leadership by example.
30
You set the
seconds.
tone for your department from the top down and show your officers how we're going to run business in a professional manner for the citizens that deserve it.
Kevin, you'll have 1 minute, and then CM, you will also have 1 minute to respond to these answers.
Administrative note, just to clarify, when I said he supervised the trooper, there were 2 troopers on the scene. Cops, you all know how to read a police report. You can see the second trooper that was there. Back to this question now. It is important managing large numbers. I know it's a good spin to say it's quality over quantity. Let me tell you something. I've been in charge of a 34-man platoon, and the dynamics of doing it with 800, doing that same type of leadership but with 800 is a big difference. There are echelons of reality that
30 seconds.
that you just can't imagine when you have to deal with that many people, and trying to make sure your guidance it gets all the way down to the lowest Joe. It's a big difference. And the shift supervisor at McDonald's probably right now is supervising 15 people. There's a big difference in
10
how many
seconds.
people you've managed. Thank you.
CM, you will have 1 minute.
As far as quantity, obviously we have 160 employees. If I've read Brian right, I would like to think that we've got quality employees also at the sheriff's office.
And Kevin, if you'd like to go ahead and read your question, you'll have 1 minute.
Rattlesnake. If you guys were not running, who would you vote for and why?
CM, we'll begin with you. And you'll have have 2 minutes.
It won't take 2 minutes. Boy, that's tough. I'd have to go on the experience. The 16 versus 24. And I guess my choice would be Brown.
Brian, you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, I too don't think that I would need that either. I would have to say if and that's a good question, I would have to look, my current question that I would probably have to resolve first, and this is to explain why I'm going to give the answer that I'm going to give is, I'm not certain what Kevin's job is right now. I'm really not. Now, I would have to find out, and I'm sure we could talk about it, and I would certainly give him due consideration as a candidate, but I'm not certain what his job is now. If he's not in law enforcement, exactly what it is that he does right now. So I would engage him and let him explain that to me. But unless that really explained a lot, then I would have to agree. The experience would be the key, and I would vote for CM. Thank you.
You'll have 1 minute to respond.
What my job is now, well, as you all, most of you know, I came off active duty orders with the United States Army March 5th, 2011. So I own a private business. I thought most people knew that. It's self-sustaining. I don't really have to do anything with it. It's when you become a cop at 23 years old and you got no, you get paid $25,000 a year. You have to do other work, and I started a business years ago. So I don't even bring all that up, that I've got private management experience also, but I think I do bring a lot to the table because I understand how to be frugal with your money so you don't spend it haphazardly, even if it is quote-unquote free taxpayer money. So, I mean, I'm fortunate that
10 seconds.
I have the time and the ability to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 10 seconds.
Okay, I would vote for Brian.
Okay, we are now coming up to about 1:45. We're going to take a 5-minute break if you guys want to stretch, walk around, and then in 5 minutes we'll have the candidates present their closing statements, and they will each get 3 minutes for that.